The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning. I'm Art Silva, and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is dedicated to your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Joining me today are my friends from Family Services, Chief Operating Officer Brenda Geisinger, and licensed therapist Amy Small. Good morning, ladies. How are you today?
Good morning. Excited to be here.
It is good to be here. We just need to get a little bit of sunshine going in our lives, but it's coming. It's coming. Should be a nice day on Monday. So today we're going to talk about, our topic is looking at social media and children. And this is a big one. I think everybody can relate to this. So with that, let's get a little definition of this. And Amy, want to put some parameters around this for us?
Well, social media is a huge topic, and everybody kind of has different thoughts on what social media is. For me, I think social media is any type of platform that is internet connected, that you can access and communicate with, whether it be pictures, chat rooms, or posting statuses, or your opinion.
Okay, Brenda?
I think Amy defined it pretty well. It's how you connect with the others in the world and what you're going to do about it, whether it's videos or pictures or text messages. It all just is out there and how you're going to connect.
Well, you know, the internet or social media in general was designed to be a real positive tool. And it is in a way, but is there a dark side where our children are involved?
Absolutely. So I agree with you. You know, there is definitely major positives. There's a good way to get your message out. There's a thing to talk to family members that live maybe on different parts of the world or different countries. But there definitely is the dark side of social media. And, you know, I think a lot of things that were originally designed to be positive, people may find a way to use it in a different way than it was designed. So you've got people on there that might be doing bullying or might be doing different types of trafficking type things, or just putting messages out there that aren't positive for people's mental health.
I know that in the agency, Brenda, you really oversee the strict use of any type of internet in our schools and with our children. You want to comment on that?
I think there's always a big caution and a concern, and just having an oversight of what can come in, what can kids look at, and how it's used is critical, whether you're overseeing programming for children or whether you're a parent or an adult. It's just having that oversight of what's appropriate, how is it being used, and is it to the benefit of kids, or is it maybe harmful and steering them in the wrong direction on some life decisions?
Well, we've heard certain stories of bullying over the internet, and it provides for some people a tool that they don't use in a real positive way. Brenda, you mentioned the word oversight, and you want to add to that, Amy, oversight, what some of the things parents in particular can do for oversight?
Sure. There's a lot of great apps out there that you can use. I know that I've heard Life 360 is used a lot. I have actually done quite a bit of research and called a lot of the different cellular companies, and most of them have some sort of parental app that you can use. Some of them is free with the service, and some of them you do have to pay a little bit extra for. Also, most phones these days, and even iPads or things like that you're using through your cellular provider, have some kind of parent control on them that you can use. I think one thing that can be a struggle for parents, it's this idea of, am I getting into their privacy, or is it something that I am doing for their safety? And my opinion on that is, you know, young kids, their brain isn't fully developed yet. And so they need help on monitoring how to use some things appropriately. So my biggest advice to parents is get in there and check that phone often. See what apps they have, see who they've added as friends, check their messages out, and it's okay to tell them, this isn't appropriate. You're taking a time out from this app or this phone for a while. It's okay to do.
Brenda, you want to add to that?
I think it's also having a dialogue with kids. Kids replicate what they see. So if you're at the dinner table as a parent or an adult and constantly on your phone, or you're driving and on the phone, and then you tell your children you can't do that or you have to put it down, it sends a really mixed message. And it's having that ongoing dialogue of what's going on. And some things can be kind of fun, like on TikTok, there's dances, and you can learn that dance with your kid and have a great old time. And so social media can be a way to connect with your kids, and they sense trust with you. So when you start asking, well, what's going on, your Facebook messages today or your Snapchat, they don't feel necessarily so threatened. It's just they feel that connection with you. Kids actually like boundaries and structure. And when you have that relationship of trust, they may be more receptive to, that's kind of questionable. Maybe you should put that away for the day.
You go back and the parents oppose with, okay, giving a child a cell phone. And I kind of go back to what you talked about, Amy, safety. You always want to be able to get in touch. But, now we've heard so many how children are affected and how people prey on children with different types of apps. So, that dark side of the internet is really there. And oversight is absolutely, as Brenda mentioned. So as you said, Amy, parents, look at your apps, take a look at the phone, make sure you know what's going on and stay in the loop there. Now, that's the downside of it. But let's say, can you have overuse of social media on the good side?
Absolutely. It's just like chocolate or anything else. It tastes really good, but only in moderation. It's like anything else. You can get addicted to most anything. I know that we generally think addictions are like substance abuse, but that's not the case. You can be addicted to overexercise, and you can do the same thing with social media. It can consume you, and it can also be, if you find yourself getting nervous, if you put your phone down or you forget it at home accidentally or something like that, that's a sign that maybe there's a little bit of an addiction starting, and it might be something that you want to take a look at.
And this also can go to, we're talking about children right now because that's what we're most familiar with, but adults, and we see adults get addicted to the internet for different reasons. So I wonder if there is something, and we're going to have a course on how to get off the internet, if it's that controlling, because for some people that can't do it in moderation, it's a tough deal. Mm-hmm. I'm Art Silva, and with me today on When Things Aren't Going Well, Amy Small and Brenda Geisinger from Family Services. And our topic today is social media and children. Let's go on. Streaming. Streaming has really come into play. Do you see our children, and do you see children that are tied into streaming as a primary use of social media?
Well, I think we should divide. There is different types of streaming. So streaming, you can watch TV or movies or things like that. And then there's also ways where kids can get on and stream live via YouTube, Facebook, things like that. And they're presenting themselves out to the world at that time too. And so both things, can be addictive and can be something that can be healthy, or it can be something that can cause them a little bit of trouble. Again, it goes back to content and what they're feeding their brains with. So.
Brenda?
I think it's a way that, like Amy said, it can be positive or negative. I think in this day and age, there's a bigger audience for acceptance. So it can be reaching out, and this is who I am, and finding like people and connecting with new friends and trying new things. But ultimately, is it for the good or is it for the bad? And where do you sit with that?
Have any studies been done, or can you make a recommendation on how much time should a child be on the internet? Do we have any information like that?
So there is a lot of research that's been done. However, it's a relatively new thing when you think of the research world. And so there's studies right now that are suggesting things, but there's not anything that has been enough peer reviewed that would give you, this is the fast and true rule on that. Generally, I know this isn't going to sound like much time, but 30 minutes to an hour during the day, during the week, is probably plenty of time. And when you look at a kiddo's schedule, they have school, they have morning routine, they might have homework, they might have extracurricular. So there isn't, a half hour to an hour can be feasible when you look at how they schedule the rest of their day.
What do you think has the impact because of virtual learning and going on the internet? Has this changed usage? It's a good thing, or is there risk involved there?
I think there is pros and cons to everything. And when you look at virtual learning, there is definitely some value for it. What some are finding, and like I said, there's not a lot of research done on it, but what some are finding is virtual learning works better for some students and in-person works better for others. So I think you really have to take it on an individual basis, which can be hard when you're trying to do research, right? Because it works better for some and not for others.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to do some research right here because we're going to take our break. And so get a cup of coffee and a glass of juice, and we'll be right back here when things aren't going well right here on KSCJ.
Let's face it happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva, and I'm joined by my friends from Family Services, Brenda Geisinger and Amy Small. And our topic today, we're talking about social media and children. So it was a great first half of the show where we outlined a lot of our problems that we deal with social media. And to kind of wrap that part up, parents, you need to use some oversight. Take a look at where your kids are, average amount of time, half hour to an hour a day during the week. So those are just some things for thoughts and some discussion we had. But when we identified the problems, now we're going to use the second half of the show to look at what are some of the resources where is there help that parents can find on this topic? And Amy, can you help us with that?
Absolutely. It can be just as overwhelming doing an internet search and seeing, typing in support for parents and online safety. You get a whole bunch of links that come up. Some that I have found to be helpful is the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a lot of good resources there for parents about online safety, and they actually have like little pamphlets and all sorts of things that you can print out. Microsoft, they actually do have a section on their website that talks about online safety, but the one that I really enjoy, and a school came up with this one. It's from Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's called Skyline Middle School. They have an absolute fabulous page, and they have things that are about their personal policies as a school, but they also have tips for parents on different sites to go to about how to manage iPads and cell phones and computers, about bullying, about sex trafficking, how to keep your kids safe from that, tips on how to manage time. It's a really, really great resource. And anything you want is pretty much on that school's website. I've never been to that school, but I really applaud them for the website that they've created about that. It's great.
And what was that website again, if you want to grab a pencil and write it down out there?
So you actually just Google, because I'm a big Googler, Skyline Middle School in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and it comes right up. And it is just a really great resource on there.
I firmly believe somewhere out there has figured this out. They got an idea or a plan. So it's great to share ideas that work. Any other resources?
So the other thing is, your kids. And I know that sounds silly, but I go to my niece a lot, and she's in 7th grade, and I say, hey, what's going on? What's the newest trend? And we have that type of relationship where she will tell me, well, this is what's going on. Because a lot of things that happen right now is there's these challenges. I don't know if you've heard about them, but they're different challenges that aren't healthy that go on. And Brenda brought one up last week at a meeting. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
It's been in the news where kids were on TikTok and trying to choke themselves out, and a youth went too far with it, and he just passed away recently from it, had brain damage, and kids really don't recognize the dangers of that. There have been ones where kids were cutting on themselves just for the thrill of it. And again, it can get dangerous very, very quickly. But like Amy said, is connecting with your kid or a child that you do know and just kind of see what's out there and have a conversation. And it can be enlightening, it can be fun, but then you're also opening up the dialogue when things can get dangerous and they feel free to just tell you what's out there. And then you can have a bigger conversation.
And the other part of that, it is okay. Like my son, I had to take some of the privileges and apps that he had away because he was sending middle fingers to people. And that's not appropriate in my house. And so was he mad? Was I the meanest mom ever that ever existed? Absolutely. But I set that boundary to my son. It's not okay to send middle finger emojis to people. And, he can live, and it was a long time, a year. He had a year with no Snapchat for that. And so you have to set the boundaries and stay stuck on them and be okay with being the meanest parent in the whole world.
That gets back to being a friend or being a parent and the danger, and that's where danger, Will Robinson. That is really something that the kids don't realize. Our children deal with peer pressure. Forget social media, just pure peer pressure. So they respond. When you give them a tool like social media, they have a chance to, experiment, and not always in the best way. So when you talk about oversight that Brenda brought up, this is really important, parents, to get involved and know what your kids are doing. And yeah, you're not being nosy. I hope you find a bunch of recipes out there and some good stuff.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised because they're under a lot of pressure. And this stuff really flows. This information flows freely, which is good. But at the same time, you have to look at the intent behind it. So that's really, really good. Let's talk about a moment. How do you prepare your child? Do you sit down with your child and talk about the internet or social media? How do you prepare them for how to use it?
I think when you first are in that point in their lives where they're going to get a cell phone, and in this day and age, it's the reality, kids have cell phones. And having that conversation of responsibility, what's your expectations, and having a dialogue even before they get the cell phone and then reviewing that periodically. This is what we agreed to. This is where we're at. And so they know what to expect. It's just like driving a car. Here are my rules. This is the responsible thing to do. Well, here's your cell phone. Here's the responsible thing to do. And these are my rules for using it.
I think it's also appropriate to sit down and make a contract with your kid.
Absolutely.
Let them know
That's a great
this
idea.
is serious. And it's also teaching them about responsibilities and contracts later in life. You put your name on it. You understood what was on here, and this is what you said that you agreed to. So there's no questions when it comes to you're not following the contract. Here's what the consequences are for that. And the other important thing to talk to your kids about, because sometimes it happens, is they get spammed with stuff that isn't appropriate, and what to do when that happens. Who do you go to? Come to the parents and say, I don't know what this is, but I'm getting this message, whether it's pornography or whether it is just things that people they don't know, sending them random things. So having those conversations as a part of that is really important to do.
You've seen the statistics on children on the internet and how they are easy prey. It starts off and it just grows and friendships. And I know Brenda in our agency we've had problems like that, and we work with children who have been victims of that type of scam. So we're very, very familiar with that. I get back to what Brenda said, oversight. Their children, parents, you have to be involved in what's going on and know what your child's doing and know you aren't being mean when you do that. So we're looking at useful forms of guidance and support. So we're not being punitive. How can we be positive and support our children's choices? Because I'm sure they make a lot of good choices.
Absolutely. I think it's being active on the things that they post. If they're doing a TikTok or if they're doing a Snapchat or whatever it is, if it's a fun thing, like it or tell them on there. Or tell them face to face. That's really nice that you're putting yourself out there or telling your story, but then also having that conversation. How are you managing the feedback? Because as we know, when we post something out there, we might have positive intentions, but there might not all be positive comments back. So it's important to just set up the boundaries. This is what I expect. Thank you for following them.
We've seen with adults disinformation that goes out over the internet. Are children affected by disinformation?
Yeah, they have to be taught how to filter what is accurate, what isn't. Is this real? Is it not? It's again that dialogue. It's a learning moment.
Any moment. Well, ladies, this has been a great show, a great topic. We're coming up on towards the end of our show, and I want to thank Amy and Brenda very much for sharing their expertise with us. It's something I think hopefully that people can take advantage of what we're trying to do here to help educate, and the whole goal being your mental wellness. As I end the show, we always want to give you a little bit of little bit of humor for your mental wellness. And I'll share a story with you. We had a son. Son got a job, and he went to go to interview for the job. The job was at the 99-cent store. So they asked him the question, where would you like to be in 5 years? He said, at the dollar store. He got the job. It's been real. Really appreciate everybody. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Eva and Lisa at Davenport Cleaners, Lori and Colleen at Steinbeck's, and Terry Nita Kazes for her beautiful music every Sunday morning. We thank you for being with us. Please join us next Saturday morning right here when things aren't going well on KSCJ. Have a great week.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you.